Give me a chair, and I will bring the table. I'll be the breeze, a wind to guide the sailboat. I'll be calm, yeah. I won't let the rain hit your heart. Keep it cool, ooh, stand tall. We are good people, side by side, join hands tonight, equal.
Welcome to Jan Kincaid and Dawn Joseph
Correct.
of now known as MF Robots.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
But you who are watching probably still remember them, because I do, as Brand New Heavies. And I still remember watching you on Top of the Pops. What year was that?
Could have been several, actually. I mean, the Heavies were on Top of the Pops a few times.
Yeah.
Probably at least 7 or 8 times, I
Yeah.
reckon. So could have been, yeah, sometime in the 90s, I would say, up until 2001, maybe.
Yeah. When did Top of the Pops stop? I realised it has stopped.
I think early
mid noughties.
mid noughties,
Mid-noughties.
maybe. Yeah,
Oh, no, it's a
I
shame.
think so. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's an absolute travesty, and I think we should have a campaign to bring it
They
back.
definitely should bring it back. Yeah.
I absolutely, my entire growing up and childhood was like literally made by watching Top of the Pops.
Yeah. Oh,
The
it's so
first-
exciting.
The first record I ever bought, this is embarrassing, from the local shop. We used to be able to go in, didn't you? And go in and they had racks of like 7-inch singles. The first record I ever bought was Bay City Rollers.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's all right. That's not as
Massive
bad as
fan.
mine. I can top trump that. Mine was the Proclaimers' Letter from America.
That's super cool, and mine is like hugely embarrassing. Because
Actually,
everyone in our street used to wear those like huge platform shoes.
oh yeah, which has made a comeback.
They've made a comeback. Everything comes back. If only I'd kept my Pepe jeans.
Not always the good stuff either.
No, we were just saying about that beautiful painting behind you. You know, you were saying your mum bought that in the 60s.
Yeah,
That literally could have been painted today, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Stunning.
It's very much like that around our house. It's quite a 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
I love the furniture. You've got the really cool furniture as well that I remember when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I love that. I've got some of that in my house as well. I really love it.
We're quite eclectic, like our music, really, I guess,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. So, when did you both know that music? Because I'm really intrigued by this, because I kind of, if I look back, I know that I was always nosy and I was always asking too many questions. It's on every school report. Stop talking, stop being so flipping nosy, stop asking so many questions. But I kind of diverged from that for a bit and I kind of pulled myself back now. When did you know music was your thing?
I think for me, it was a case of didn't know what else to do. And I just kind of fell into music because I grew up in Jersey, so a very small town. And you know, your career advisor, you just want to be a doctor, lawyer, you know, it's really simple, simple jobs, but those kind of jobs. There wasn't anything in arts. Or if I had said I want to be a singer, they would have laughed at me. So I think I think I put down physiotherapist. I don't know why. Just that sounded a bit more exciting. And then my dad has a band locally. And then I think it was my 19th birthday, I got up and sang and I thought, oh, okay, I enjoy this. I didn't know if it could be a job, but I thought I enjoy this. So I pursued it for a bit and I'm still doing it.
So you're like 19th, but your dad and your 19th birthday were kind of the
that
moment.
For me. And I'm still kind of finding my feet, I feel. I'm still sort of trialing things out. 45 and I still haven't settled on anything.
I was always massively into music from when I was a kid. As a fan, I was really into it, as a lot of kids are, but it never really went away with me. I was really passionate about it, and that's kind of the thing I really enjoyed when I was a kid, was music and kind of dancing. I really enjoyed as well. And I think just going from primary school into high school, it sort of followed me around and was still a really big thing. And then there was kind of nightclubs and things like that. And my brother was really into music as well, so I learned a lot about particular records and stuff from him. But when I got into high school, I was having piano lessons from sort of the age of 6 or something like that, which I kind of enjoyed and also didn't enjoy at the same time. It was just kind of like having to practice and all that sort of stuff when you're a kid is a bit sort of tiresome, you know. And it was mostly kind of classical music as well. It wasn't really fun.
Yeah,
You know, like it is, there was no jazz or anything kind of a bit more interesting to my ears. Even though I love classical music now, I appreciate it more. It's just as a kid, it's a bit kind of like stiff and, you know, although I had a few tunes I liked. So I just sort of stuck with it. And then I sort of gave all that up when I was about 11. I think I stopped having lessons. And then I just sort of enjoyed music more naturally, you know, as a listener. And then when I went to high school, it was a very musical school, and they had a really good music department, and sort of people were encouraged if they had any kind of ability to sort of just play, you know. So I started playing drums and saxophone at school and just followed that really, and then met some other people who were doing the same thing, and it just sort of went from there really. So it didn't turn into a career though till later on, and that was really, I was kind of doing various temporary jobs, you know, that I wasn't really into at all. It's just to earn money, you know. When I was in my sort of late teens, after I left school, I didn't go to university. And then one of the reasons I didn't go to university is because there wasn't anything I actually wanted to do. I'd done my A-levels, and in terms of passion, there was nothing I was really passionate about other than music. I used to like to read, but not enough to, I'd already done my A-levels in English. There was nothing that I really wanted to study, literature or anything like that. So there were no courses then like there are now.
Yeah,
you know,
and no drama schools, I guess.
No, well there were, but everything was a lot more stuffy basically. All of my brother had done a degree in music at university, and it was all very corduroy jackets, and you know, it was all sort of like that.
Whereabouts was this, Jan? Was this in the UK?
Yeah, I grew up in Ealing in West London. And my brother was older than me, so I sort of followed a lot of what he was doing and saw what he was doing, and just sort of thought that's not for me, you know. So I kind of went in from sort of more of a street level in terms of nightclubs and enjoying all of that, and you know, reacting to music, and it just became something I really, really loved. And because I had a certain amount of ability, it turned into making music from there really, and then from there eventually it turned into a band and all of that, you know. So that's really... Was
there a moment then? Was there a moment where, like Dawn was saying, you know, she was like 19, got up on the stage, thought, oh, actually I can do this?
Well, I definitely realized that I was having fun doing it, and I definitely realized that that sort of it was something that was really good fun to do. But in terms of turning it into a career, that didn't really happen till later, you know, because it's kind of more of a practical thing. Can I actually make some money? And when I start to get a bit of notoriety by playing at various places, then I sort of realized maybe I could make a bit of money here and there, you know.
Were you already in the band? Had you already formed the band at that point?
We formed another band, an earlier sort of version of it, and kind of from there. And I was still living at home, so I didn't really have that many overheads and stuff. But then I moved out, and I never really went back home after that. And I just sort of carried on working, and it just sort of, I fell into it really as a career, but I already had the passion. The passion was already there.
How did you form the band then? How did you find the people to work with?
Well, the Heavies grew out of school really. The two other guys in the Heavies were people I went to school with. And it kind of grew from that really. So yeah, it was really just from school, and then going out to nightclubs and carrying on from there. That's really how it formed, you know.
Because I find that interesting, because visual artists, painters, sculptors, etc., they're very much isolated, work on their own, don't seem to collaborate. Whereas musicians, you gather, you're like a rolling stone. You kind of gather people with you as you go along, don't you? And I think that is symptomatic of why you become quite successful organically, because you kind of gather people along with skills and then collaborate and share. It's not a kind of competitive thing. And then all of a sudden you think, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
This is a
well,
thing.
it's definitely a collaborative thing. I think also it depends what you end up doing. You know, some people are just stay in a band as a band member and do one particular thing. Other people diversify and do other things. You know, I mean, my songwriting really developed as kind of the singular thing I was kind of best at in a way in that band, and has grown even more working with Dawn and stuff.
So how
from
did
that.
you two
So,
meet then? How did you meet Dawn?
we met in the Heavies actually. At the time, we needed a new singer, and Dawn was suggested to me as a singer, and I got in touch. And Dawn came down and auditioned. That was that 2014?
It was
2012.
no,
No,
it was
2012.
2012.
Yeah, it was 2012. Yeah.
Was it 2012? I think you were just finishing Forward.
A record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you just asked me to come down and put some BVs on the record.
Yeah.
To kind of see how I fitted in with everybody. So I came down. Well, first of all he sent me the wrong track to sing on. So
Oh, maybe that was a clever.
Yeah.
Or did he?
Anyway, I nailed it anyway. Either way, he showed me the right track and I put some ad libs down, and they are actually on the record. And then you said, oh, we've got some shows coming up next year. So then you didn't contact me, I don't think, till the next year. It gave me sort of 2 or 3 weeks notice to learn a whole set.
Oh, it's all getting a bit awkward now. It's like that thing where you ever go at your partner when you're in public. All the truth comes out.
I think I've done
I
before,
guarantee that it wasn't down to him. Only 2 weeks notice. But yeah, and we met that way, and I met you at the studio in a car park.
Yeah, and we just kind of got closer, and we sort of
Wow,
realized,
it's truly glamorous, isn't it? This music industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Proper glam.
Yeah, and we pretty soon started we gravitated together, sort of writing material and stuff like that, and realized we had a sort of real chemistry. And that kind of grew from there. And you know, at the same time, there were a lot of cracks in the band, and you know, we'd been together a long time, and kind of, I think, in terms of its creativity, I kind of felt things were just going round and round in circles and wasn't really developing, or just needed a fresh input. And Dawn was very much that fresh input for me. But I think the other guys in the band didn't really,
They just kind of were happy with the situation and doing what they were doing, where they were, and didn't really want to push any boundaries or move it forward. They're happy doing the gigs they were doing and singing the same songs all the time. But we're creative people. We always wanted to develop something and push it a bit further. So I put a lot of my input and energy into the Heavies and wasn't really getting anything back from that. So we just felt that it was maybe the right time to do something for ourselves.
Yeah.
So did you have a break? Did you kind of like stop doing the Heavies and then think about MF Robots, or did you?
No, we just
kind
sort
of
of
transitioned.
We were sort of writing all the time, really, and I guess, I mean, leaving the Heavies and the Robots was kind of two separate events. The Heavies thing kind of came to a head, and I left because Dawn had already left actually. It just wasn't really going anywhere for me. The relationships were breaking down, and it was very counterproductive, and like a really dysfunctional marriage in a way. And you either have to decide, I'm going to get quite metaphorical now, but it kind of works as a metaphor. If you think of music as children in a marital relationship, then you can either stay together for the sake of the children, but they might end up quite sort of messed up and not really happy functioning adults, or you can make a break and actually both go off and do your own thing, and things can flourish and, you know, get the nourishment that they need. And that's what I felt I certainly needed to do, because I think that, you know, how we both felt about what we were doing and the band and stuff, and what we wanted it to be, were two different things, you know. I think it's important as an artist, any kind of artist. I think part of what you're doing, it's in a way, it's a sort of selfish journey, in the sense that you have a vision and you really need to explore that. It's a really intrinsic part of who you are, and then part of your journey is going on that journey and not kind of following it in a really kind of organic way and as best you can, and you have to avoid some of those pitfalls and those obstacles in order to get there, and you have to keep it flowing, you know, and if there's something that's not healthy, you have to kind of move on, otherwise you don't grow, you know, and you don't develop, and you'll end up just doing the same thing over and over again. And I saw that happening for a few years actually, and I just realized it wasn't really for me anymore. And at the same time, I was in a really healthy working situation with Dawn in terms of the stuff we were doing, you know, so I kind of had the sort of what I didn't want it to be and what I did want it to be happening at the same time. So it made absolutely, it was a no-brainer for me, you know.
And 7 years later, they're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's fine, isn't it? Because they're happy doing that. But
obviously happy doing that. But
and you've been brave, and and you were prepared to take the risk and do something that's going to actually fill yourselves up and make you feel the best you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Do you have any regrets about doing that?
Not at all.
I was going to say, I think I can answer that question for you, having just listened to you. But
yeah, not at all. No.
It's always important to reflect, isn't it? It's always important to reflect on those big decisions in our life. That was a massive, massive moment. Yeah,
definitely was. But I think, you know, one thing I have learned is you can lead several lives within one life. You know, you can just lead one life and do the same thing and over and over and over again, you know, or you can keep moving, and as long as what you're doing makes sense and feels good, then that's fine. No.
Totally. I think, you know, you were saying about we just at the beginning we were talking about school and like career advisors, and I remember at school, you know, them saying to me, going to see the career advisor, and she was saying, so what do you want to do? You know, be a librarian. Me, a librarian. They actually sent me on work experience to a library. That was hilarious. I got kicked out after 2 minutes. But there was like, they kind of sold you that like there's the one path, didn't they?
Yeah.
That moment. But I've had this
20 years earlier, your career's advice would have been completely different again. It would have been even less. It would have been secretary, nurse or a housewife. That would be it, wouldn't it? You know.
And when you got married, give that up.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what a life.
So crazy.
It's just not going to work for me. I am going to cause so much pain if they'd have tried to do that to me. It was bad enough being sent to the library. Those people did not know what had happened. They're like, shh. And then time they kept going to me, shh. I'm like, I don't do quiet. I don't know why they sent me here. I don't do quiet. I'm not quiet. I used to gig. I used to go around with a band. Yeah, you know, the whole 9 yards. So organically it has led you to today. What happened during lockdown? How did that affect you? Have you seen a transition? Have you seen change during that period of time with what you're doing?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, the timing was a bit off, because although we had just maybe a week before finished the new record and mastered it, that was good timing. But it was bad timing because we were on a roll, you know, we were just about to release the record and we had loads of gigs all that summer planned. But in reflection, maybe it gave us time to just step back from it all and plan things a little bit. We changed the order of the single releases and what have you. And yeah, maybe we had time to plan a bit more. But personally, lockdown was good for us both, I think.
Yeah.
As, you know, a relationship and being at home and with the cat enjoyed us being here more. Yeah, because I was pretty burnt out. 2019 was pretty full on, so I was actually quite thankful of time at home. And I hate saying that because I know people had it really rough, but I was a lucky one, and I enjoyed having the time. And I look back on my life before, and I just don't know how I traveled, how I did my schedule, traveling and just, you know, waking up at 3 a.m, going to the airport, doing a gig, coming back the next night, you know, with 0 sleep, and just sort of repeating that. Crazy.
That burnout thing, yeah. I think was, you know, kids of the 80s, aren't we? We're kids of the 80s. We were kind of offered that kind of opportunity to be what you want to be.
Yeah. But
that we were also sold this thing about you have to really work hard and you have to be like on it all the time. And I completely feel you. I get you, because I, definitely went through the work like a mad thing, burnout, work like a mad thing, burnout cycle. It's just so unhealthy.
It is unhealthy. And you always used to say to me, just take breaks, which I'm better at now, but
We're definitely better at it now.
But I just, a lot of the time when I do take time out and I sit and read or just watch a bit of TV, I'm just thinking, what am I doing? I could have done that, I could have done that in this time, and I feel guilty about it.
But you're very driven. You got that drive, which is a really healthy thing.
Yeah.
But you just need to know how to take breaks, really.
Yeah.
We were turned into robots, Dawn.
Yeah, definitely.
Our work.
Weren't we? We were. Our work ethic is amazing, but we weren't. I said quite frequently before lockdown, and I totally agree with you. Some people had a terrible experience, but for me, it gave me the moment to reflect and go, hang on a minute, I am literally a workaholic.
Yeah, I think I am.
I mean, one thing about the first lockdown which actually was quite important, is that the weather was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And we were stuck at home, but we got a nice garden and stuff. So we had a lot of time outside and going for walks, and that was actually really refreshing, because I think sometimes if you're really busy, you don't actually take the time to do things like that. And everybody was forced on a national scale and international. Everyone was forced to kind of just stay still. And, I think as a result, a lot of people were reflecting and doing things they'd never done before, in their busy lives. Do you know what I mean? So I think that definitely had an effect on so many people in quite a deep way, in terms of people changing careers, realizing they're not happy in a relationship, whatever it was. There's so many things going on for people on a personal level. That's been a massive shift, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that it gave us all the opportunity to just slow down and just look at ourselves. I took up meditation.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Which has been life-changing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people realize they weren't happy in what they were doing or their career path, or if you're lucky enough to be able to make that choice. And because a lot of people don't have that luxury, they're forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. I mean, now more than ever, it's crazy the way things are for people,
Yeah, with the cost of living just right now, because of all the consequences.
Insane.
Yeah, absolutely. But it gave you personally time to kind of just reflect, and you said, avoid, try and put in place some things to stop you burning out in future. And also plan. I think planning is so important. Don't want to over plan, because you don't want to not leave gaps, but planning so that we know where we're going. So where are you going?
I asked myself that question.
Well, we've really got this album to promote. Really, that's the main thing, and we're just trying to get our live situation back together again in terms of gigs. Which is a kind of a slow build for everybody right now. I heard yesterday that a quarter of all the UK tours that were supposed to go out in the first quarter of this year have been cancelled.
Wow.
Have been pulled by the promoters or whatever, because the marketplace is still very kind of, everyone's a little bit jittery and a little bit, we've had 3 different lockdowns now, so everyone's kind of like, well, maybe even 4, I can't remember, there's so many. So I think people are still a little bit cautious, both promoters and punters, It
costs so much money, doesn't it? It costs so much money, and they risk to lose so much money.
Yeah, and when things have been cancelled 3 times already, people are really nervous about taking that leap of faith, so it's a difficult process, and we're just starting to get into it now. So we've got a few shows. We've still got a tour going on in March.
And whereabouts is the tour in March?
London, Manchester, Bristol,
Newcastle,
Leeds. Yeah.
There's one more.
Not up north.
No, I think we've done all the northern ones. Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle is the northern bit.
Glasgow.
No. London, Bristol. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah,
They'll turn up. Don't panic, people. They will arrive.
Yeah.
Ed, I'm sure, has got a schedule. Don't tell Dawn 2 weeks before, though. Give her a bit of notice.
before and at Birmingham.
Birmingham, there you go.
Birmingham.
Birmingham. I didn't
Mm.
want to forget you, but
Love
Yeah,
Birmingham.
it's
We're going
gorgeous.
to, I think we're going to Birmingham as well. So we go around the country doing lives like this kind of stuff, but live as well. So
Right.
you're looking forward to that. You're looking
Yeah,
forward to
yeah.
getting back on the road.
Definitely.
yeah, because we only did what three gigs last year.
No, I think we did 6 last year altogether.
Yeah.
Five or
remember.
6 gigs, I think we did last year, and that was it. You know.
Yeah, so we yeah.
So
What's
it's
the
fun.
average audience size then when you do a gig?
It depends. I mean, we've done everything. I mean, one of our first gigs was about 10,000 people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In
Cool.
did a gig in the Black Sea Jazz Festival in Georgia, sort of massive thing. And then we've played for 250 people, you know, so we've done a whole range of things, which is what you tend to do as a band. You know, at a certain level, you do small festivals, big festivals, small gigs, you know, bigger gigs, and we like them all. You know,
Yeah.
it's the variety that's interesting, and I think being out in front of an audience is really where it's at. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we can't wait to get back to that. But
Yeah.
as I say, it's a building process, you know, and we just have to be patient. But that's one thing, you know, we've all learned in lockdown is to be patient, isn't it? You know.
I was watching some of your stuff on YouTube because I love your music, absolutely love it, and that's why I wanted to interview you, because I absolutely love it. And they were recordings of you live doing your stuff live. Have you, during lockdown, did you do, because there was a few artists in and around this area in the southeast who were doing just like gigs from their house? Sophie Ellis-Bextor was doing her kitchen thing, wasn't she?
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, we
Did you
didn't
do
really
any of that?
We kind of thought about it,
Yeah.
and actually, by the time we got to shall we do it, there was such a saturation of people doing it, and I think, you know, we were just kind of like, nah, I don't know. It's much more fun to actually be in front of people. So we hadn't actually done it. We may do it at some point. The other thing is that the other members of our band are all spread around, you know, so it's kind of quite difficult to get everyone together. We did a couple of BBC things, like a smaller unit, sort of acoustic type thing. We've done a couple of things there.
We had the guys down here though to hang out.
Yeah,
This one.
they came down to hang out, and you know, it all depends what the lockdown restrictions were saying as well, you know,
Exactly.
and all of that, you know.
Yeah. So hang out on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did. Exactly that.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. We did quite a lot of that.
We weren't having parties with cake.
No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's just not take it to a political level. No, none of us were doing that. We were all abiding by the rules. And because we wanted it to be over, because our careers kind of depended on it. Although, as we have all said, you know, there were some good bits that came out of it and some behaviours that we're going to change. So just to wrap up, kind of like, is there any, for people coming up in the industry now, you know, new artists coming in, you know, we know the way it happened with us. It's very organic, you know, start gigging, start to get an audience. Suddenly you find, how did you find Ed, you know, as a manager? How did you find your manager?
Well, Ed, I met Ed when Ed was actually quite young. He was still in his, I think he was in his late teens, or very early 20s. And he was working for an older guy as a manager, and he was kind of his sort of assistant / co-manager. And at that time, he was brought in to manage the Heavies. And then sort of, I think nearly a year later, they were sacked, not by me, but the Heavies got through a lot of managers and a lot of singers and a lot of everything else, because that's one of the things that used to drive me crazy. It's like we never really managed to kind of establish anything beyond our original setup, because it was just so, I don't know, it was just insane the way it was run and everything. So basically I stayed in touch with Ed because I always thought Ed really had something, and I really got on with him. So I basically kept in touch with him for the subsequent couple of years. And then when I left the band, I said, look, you know, I'm leaving. This is what I think I want to do. And this is, you know, introduced him to Dawn, and kind of went from there, you know. It really worked. And then Ed has just gone from strength to strength really as a manager. And, you know, there's something about, I mean, even when people are quite young, they have something, and you just have to recognize it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where you have an ability or don't. You don't need training to be a manager, or well, you do in a way, but there's no official kind of route to it. you know, so you need a lot of different things, you know, and he sort of had them all, so it kind of works, you know.
Yeah. And do you think it's really important to, because it, again, you know, liken this to a visual artist, often the visual artist will say, oh, I need a gallery. And that's kind of the equivalent of the manager. But some of them say, I'm going to do it on my own. Do you think you could have done it on your own without a manager?
To a certain point, I think the trouble is, I think in this business, there's so many components to it. If you're going to manage yourself as well, that's kind of taking time away from being creative and splitting the two things. They're very, very different places to be, you know. And Ed's actually a very musical guy. He's really into music and stuff, and he's very passionate about it, which is a good thing, because not all managers are. And I think it's an important thing for us to have somebody who understands and is into music as well, because that's, otherwise you don't really get what we're doing, because it's very musical. And you know, we're not just trying to make money. Obviously we want to have a career, but we're actually doing something. What drives it is the passion, rather than you know, than the commerce side of it, you know. And that's one thing I would always say to people who are younger, starting out in any kind of artistic thing: follow your heart, not the money, because you're wasting.
Money will follow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the problem that you have with a lot of these kind of talent competition based programs, is that people will just kind of conned into thinking you can be successful overnight, and you just have to go on a talent competition and get discovered. And you know, they set their heart on that, and then they get their heart broken. Do you know what I mean? And it's
the myth of overnight success is
you almost have to do it because you can't do anything else, and you don't want to do anything else. I think you have to have a bit of that in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got to have the resilience, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's kind of what gives you the resilience in a way, because it's something you love doing. You love doing it regardless, you know, as long as you can actually do it and you're comfortable and you have your basic needs fulfilled, you can do it, you know. So it works for that reason. You know, we've been lucky in that we have been able to be successful to a certain level, and you know, have the best of both worlds in a way. But it's not easy, you know. It's hard. It's really hard work, you know, and you have to be really tenacious, and you know, have a certain amount of confidence, savvy, and everything else, and also be able to take knockbacks and not get swallowed up in your ego as well. Do you know what I mean? Which is another problem people have. So it's a real tightrope, you know, of a career, for sure.
Yeah, you have to be able to have humility, don't you? Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to have humility and be able to go, like, you know, you're hearing all those inner voices and all that ego coming up. You have to be able to put it to the side and just keep going.
Yeah.
Be really, really kind of like brave and single-minded and keep going. I love that overnight success. Overnight success is 20 years and one night.
Yeah. Very true.
Or 30 years and one night.
Yeah, exactly.
I know people say to me now, they say, oh, you know, it's so great, you know what you're doing and everything. I said, yeah, 25 years and 1 year. That's where we are, you know. You don't just show up and it becomes, you know, there's the odd one, isn't there, that happens to, but you know, most of us have like done the grind.
But I think if that does happen to you overnight, in a way, it's a negative thing in a way, because you don't have any understanding or kind of, you haven't learned anything to get there, and you kind of,
and to support you when you're there.
Yeah, and actually if that does happen to you, you find yourself at the mercy of people you don't even know. Do you know what I mean? So you're surrounded by people who've come on board to help you with your career, but you're putting your trust in them and your faith in them, and that can go one of two ways. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, a year later, 2 years later, when it hasn't worked out and you're back on the streets again, as it were, you're scratching your head, and some people can suffer really badly because of that. Do you know what I mean? You know,
you haven't learned the skills, have you?
No.
You haven't put down the roots. We say that quite a lot in our teaching. It's like, you know, you've got the trunk, which is, you know, ours here, but actually to stay upright when the wind blows, you've needed to put the roots down. You've needed to gain the skills so that when the wind blows, you can stay up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what that, you know, the 20 years and one night is all about. And it's amazing when you get there, but it doesn't come magically, as you just described.
No.
So final words, Dawn, what's the big thing for the future? What would be the most amazing outcome for you? What's your dream?
I think keep spreading the word and being able to sustain, you know, MF Robots, and to be gigging and taking it just to different territories, and just, you know, spreading a positive message. All our songs are very positive.
They are.
We're not trying to, you know, change the world in any, you know, deep political way, but we just want to make people happy and smile. And,
is there one country you'd really like to go to?
I don't know. We have been to, very lucky to have been to a lot of our sort of dream destinations.
I'd like to get this particular band to America, I think, and do some serious touring over there, because I think that we'd have a natural audience there, you know, as well as, I mean, I think the variety is the thing that's interesting, is the different places you travel to and the different kinds of people you play for, and the different size of venues. All of those things that's what's the interesting part for me, and we've done a bit of that already, you know, but I think we've got a lot more ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's
don't just go for the single, like, big blockbuster, but go for all the levels.
Well, you have to. I mean, if you're building a career, that's what you have to do, you know.
Play to your granny.
Yeah, exactly.
And your friends and family. And also play to the people you don't know. It's exactly the same for visual artists, you know. Show your work to your family, and then show your work in big, you know, in the Mall galleries in London, in big art fairs. But do it all, so that you're getting all these skills all the time, and getting all the experience right. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, you too.
Likewise, thank you.
I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait. My daughter lives in Manchester, so I'm just going to go on and see where that gig is now.
Oh, cool.
And see if we can get some tickets and come along and see you.
It's a nice venue, actually.
What's the venue in Manchester?
It's Band on the Wall.
Yeah, Band on the Wall.
Band on the Wall. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a well-known venue.
Okay, I'm gonna get online and get some tickets, and then Christy and I'll come and see you in Manchester. Right. Yeah, we went to see, just before Christmas, we went to the arena, and we saw Gary Barlow.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
And it's such a nice venue, the arena.
Yeah, the MEN.
Really nice arena, and it's walking distance. She lives right in the city, and it's just walking distance from her house. I was like, I'm never going to a gig in London again, where you have to allocate an entire day. Leave home. It takes the entire day to get there, get home again. We left our house. We were there in 10 minutes, and we got back in 15. I was like,
brilliant.
Why wouldn't you go to gigs in Manchester or Newcastle? It's so much quicker. As you say, as a person coming to the gig, it's just such a nice experience. Makes you feel happy.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. Absolutely brilliant. You've shared so much. As I say, Caitlin will be on this, getting it all up online for us, so everyone can see and hear everything you've got to say. And I will look forward to seeing you in Manchester.
Oh, yes. Let us know.
I will let you know. I will let you know once I book the tickets. Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
And look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Keep on pushing, we gonna do it right. Let's start tonight.